Rocks and minerals. Although exact origin of our Earth is still not known, it is believed that it came into existence about 4,500 million years ago. In the beginning, it was very hot and molten, but it cooled gradually and acquired its present form. The Earth is basically a watery planet with nearly 71% of its surface covered with water, oceans, and the remaining 29% is land. There are 7 huge land masses called continents and 5 vast oceans. This distribution of land and water is highly uneven. Land masses or continents are largely concentrated in the northern hemisphere, known as the land hemisphere, while the southern hemisphere has a predominance of water, known as water hemisphere. Our Earth consists of several concentric shells or layers, like the layers of an onion. We may broadly classify the Earth into these main layers: crust, mantle, core. Crust. The crust is the topmost solid layer of the Earth, consisting of rocks of various types. The crust is very thin and its average thickness is about 50 kilometers. This layer is found both under the continents and the ocean floors. The crust is divided into 2 shells: Ciel, the upper shell, and Sima, the lower shell. The Ciel is made up of silica and aluminium, while Sima has an abundance of silica and magnesium. The crust is not found in the form of a continuous single surface, but is in the form of several moving plates or huge slabs of the rocks. These plates keep moving under the influence of forces within the Earth. The contact zone of the crust and mantle is called Mohorovisic or Moho discontinuity. The depth of Moho varies from 5 to 7 km beneath the surface of the oceans and 45 to 70 km below the folded mountains. The mantle. The mantle layer lies beneath the crust and its depth extends up to 2,900 kilometers. It is composed of dense and rigid rocks and has predominance of minerals like magnesium, iron, and silicon. Molten rocks called magma are present in this layer. Mantle is also known as the asthenosphere. Core. The central part of the Earth is known as the core. It has a radius of about 3,400 km. We do not have direct evidence to understand the core or the interior of Earth. Our knowledge of the core of the Earth is largely based on the behavior of earthquake waves. The core is divided into 2 parts: the inner core and the outer core. The inner core is under tremendous pressure and it remains solid, but the outer core is molten. The temperature in the core ranges from 2200 degrees centigrade to above 5500 degrees centigrade. Both the parts are composed mostly of nickel and iron. Thus, the core is also called knife. The density of core varies from 11 to 15. Rocks and minerals. The Earth's crust is made up of different types of rocks. A rock is a natural deposit that forms the solid part of the Earth's crust. They can be as hard as granite or marble and can be as soft as particles of sand, clay, or gravel. A rock is not a chemical compound, but a conglomeration of minerals. Minerals are the natural inorganic substances which have definite chemical composition and physical properties. They may be made up of a single element such as gold or sulfur, or of a compound of more than one element in a definite proportion like quartz, SiO2. Minerals are usually crystalline, but some minerals are non-crystalline. Nearly 2,000 minerals are known to us, but 12 of them are more common all over the Earth. Rocks that contain minerals which can give us metals are called ore. Minerals are very important for the development of the mankind. Types of rocks. Rocks may vary in their physical properties, and this variation is due to the processes that give the rise to rocks. Rocks may be classified into 3 categories on the basis of their origin. Igneous rocks. These rocks are also called as the primary rocks because they were formed first. The word igneous is derived from the Latin word ignis, meaning fire. These rocks are formed by the process of solidification of molten rock material called magma. Igneous rocks are very hard. Most rocks found on the earth belong to this category. They are good building materials. Examples of such rocks are basalt, granite, and dolerite. They can be further divided into two subtypes. Extrusive igneous rocks. During the volcanic eruptions, when magma erupts and on reaching the Earth's surface, it cools and solidifies. As a result, rocks are formed on the surface known as volcanic rocks. Intrusive igneous rocks. They are formed by the solidification of magma below the surface of the Earth, in the cracks or joints. Inside the Earth, magma cools down very slowly and as a result forms crystals of large size. Sometimes the magma solidifies at a great depth. Due to very slow cooling, large-sized rock crystals are formed very deep down. The deep-seated igneous rocks are called plutonic rocks. Sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks are also known as secondary rocks because they are formed from the sediments derived from the pre-existing rocks. Igneous rocks are exposed to the forces of nature. These forces break the rock on the surface of the earth into small pieces. These small pieces turn to tiny particles with time. These tiny particles are transported by the agents of nature like rivers or winds and are deposited at certain places. The deposition of such materials occurs in layers. That is why they are called stratified or sedimentary rocks. These rocks often contain fossils of animal and plant life. They are comparatively soft. These are formed when the remains of vegetation and animals were buried and trapped within layers of the other sediments. With the passage of time, the trapped remains changed into coal or petroleum. This is why coal and petroleum are known as fossil fuels. They help us to calculate the age of the rocks and tell us about things that happened millions of years ago. Sedimentary rocks also can be classified into three subtypes. Mechanically formed sedimentary rocks. When rocks are exposed to weather changes, they are broken and thus carried to a particular site where such material is deposited in layers and the rocks are formed. Examples of such rocks are clay, gravel, and sandstone. Chemically formed sedimentary rocks. They are formed by the process of evaporation of water containing mineral salt in solution. In deserts or shallow lakes, water evaporates, leaving behind a layer of salts. These salts get consolidated into sedimentary rocks. Examples of such rocks are common salt, gypsum, and potash. Organically formed sedimentary rocks. They are formed by the accumulation of the remnant parts of the organisms, plants and animals. Examples of such rocks are chalk, coal, and limestone. Metamorphic rocks. The meaning of metamorphic is changed or altered. These rocks are either igneous or sedimentary rocks, which have undergone a change due to excessive heat or pressure. This change of one type of rock to another is called metamorphic rocks. For example, due to excessive heat, limestone changes into marble and sandstone changes to quartzite. Metamorphic rocks are very hard. Rock cycle. The three categories of rocks are constantly forming from one another in a continuous circuit, which is known as the rock cycle. When the igneous rocks are exposed to weather changes, they are broken and eroded and give birth to the sedimentary rocks. Due to excessive heat and pressure, these rocks further undergo a change into metamorphic rocks. Thus, This cycle of change from one type of rock into another is called the rock cycle. Rocks can be used for various purposes: as building materials, marble and granite; as fuels, coal and petroleum; as precious stones, diamonds and gems; as sources of chemicals, phosphates and potash; as sources of metals, iron and copper, etc. Trivia: obsidian is a volcanic glass that forms quickly without crystal growth. It can have very sharp edges, making it useful as a cutting tool or arrowhead. Trivia: most common mineral on Earth, quartz. Most common rock on Earth, basalt. Hardest natural substance on Earth, diamond. Trivia: even though slate is a type of metamorphic rock, it actually can form other types of rocks. It creates mudstone, shale, and clay. Trivia: marble forms from metamorphosed carbonate rocks, most usually limestone.